Hi, good day, and welcome to Book Club Conversations. My name is Alina Lewis,
I am Pamela Ramcharan.
and we're really excited to have you join us for yet another stream of Book Club Conversations. And right now, we are still on the book Prayers That Activate Blessings by John Eckhardt, and we have been having quite a time just really going through the experience, the information, and learning and challenging ourselves to grow based on the information. We really appreciate those who have been joining in with us for the streams, who have been reading the book, who've been sharing, inboxing, sharing, commenting, just giving us an idea of what stands out to you. And by the way, if you have not liked or subscribed to the channel that you are viewing this on, please remember to like, subscribe, and share, because of course when you share you make the content more visible. You cause persons who didn't know that there was this program called the Book Club Conversations to know it exists, and it could really be a blessing to somebody, because sometimes all we need is a good word. And when I say a good word, to be inspired, to hear somebody's story, to realize that I am not alone. You are not alone. We are not islands on ourselves. But we all go through same things in different way and different things in the same way. And so we are all in this growth process together. And of course, book club conversations help us to be able to have that common ground where we're able to share and learn. So Pamela, we always start off with our reading tip. What is your reading tip for today?
Well, thank you so much, Alina. And I think I have a really good one.
Oh.
And my reading tip for today is to get rid of distractions. Turn off your phone, turn off your television, get off your computer. Find yourself in a really nice, comfortable place in your home. Maybe it's on your couch, maybe it's on your bed, maybe you have an office area. You need to get rid of distractions, especially as you are reading for meaning, because that is what we're doing with book club conversations. And this particular book here, Prayers That Activate Blessings. And when you get rid of the distractions, and you would see Alina here, when we come on book club conversation, she has her cup of coffee. You can have a nice coffee, get really comfortable, and you begin reading.
Yeah, I wanna, as my tip, I would encourage additional research. I know last time when I spoke about reading more, I looked at definitions and really getting into the concrete meaning of words and the biblical meanings of words. But today I want to encourage research. Within my copy of the book, my book is expanding. So right now, if we have gone through, let's say, 5 pages, my book has maybe 15 pages, because I'm doing additional research as I go along, because I want to read deeper into the topic, into the idea, whatever we're going through, and I'm sticking it in as we go along. So that way now, whenever I read, I have my research that goes along with it, because again, reading for meaning suggests that I'm not just going through the process, but what I'm saying is that I want to get as much out of it. And when you do research, it's based on asking yourself, what stands out to me? What is, whether it's a word, a phrase, a line, a particular scripture, depending on the book that you're reading, of course. But if something stands out to you, for some reason, it just jumps out at you from that book, don't take it for granted and say, oh yeah, that's cool. No. Go deeper, look it up, find a commentary that talks about it, or a website that shares additional information about it. Do additional research so that it brings greater depth to what you are reading. How have your declarations been going, Pamela?
My declarations have been going great.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you're getting used to it. You're getting used to now doing declarations. It's not something that you would do on a regular basis, or at least when you remember, when you get a little time, but now it's like there. And as you say, and listen, and a word that Alina loves, and she is intentional, and I'm also trying to be intentional. So we're learning from each other.
Yes, definitely.
So trying to be intentional with declarations in my life and in everything that I do.
Yeah, and I think what I would say that is like a great point to remember when we talk about doing declarations, is that declarations is not about the thing that you do. It can be the thing that you do, where, oh my gosh, I'm going to get up in the morning and do declarations.
Yeah.
It could be the thing that you do, but it doesn't have to be an event of your day. It could just be part of how you live,
Yes.
and like I was sharing with you, Pamela, before we came onto the stream, that, I just recently, I was remembering our conversation and we were talking, and I'm thinking about a situation in that moment. I just stopped myself, because it's easy for your mind to start racing, and just kind of moving forward. And I was just telling God how grateful I was, and I was just thanking God for the good things to come. And I was just remembering even the declarations that we were reading through earlier in the book, and was just speaking those things. And it wasn't an event in my day, it was just me sitting down 1 o'clock in the afternoon with a cup of coffee by myself in thought, and just taking that moment to choose to have gratitude in my day, so that I'm not ungrateful because life isn't perfect, but I'm grateful because I'm one step closer to this, I'm one step closer to that. We all have those moments where we can look at a situation and we could decide, do I complain because it's not perfect as I want it to be? Or do I be grateful and have gratitude and allow gratitude to refresh us and to encourage us because it's not what it was? And so, yeah, declaration, it can be an event, but it doesn't have to be an event. It could just be part of your day. It could be a part of who you are and how you operate. Yeah. So even as we jump into the book, Pamela, I know we just got started with chapter 1. What
Yes.
stands out to you?
Well, with regards to reading, and we just only got through just the first portion of it, and I have it here highlighted. So don't mind me if I'm looking down. It's because I have my material in front of me.
Yes, as do
Well,
I.
so this one here, and I think we just did the first paragraph into the second.
Yes, we were
That's it.
talking about asking for what.
Right, asking for
Mhm.
blessing by asking. Now, this part with Jabez, and it says, and I highlighted, oh, that thou wouldest bless me. And it says that the story here of Jabez is only 2 verses in the Bible, in the book of First Chronicles. It is a reminder of the effectiveness of fervent prayer. Effectiveness of fervent prayer. And again, these conversations are all about learning. So even Alina would have alluded to the fact of research, finding definitions of words and things like that. And effective, so I had to go and look at the meanings to find out effective. What does effective mean? When you hear about effectiveness, what it says, so I'm going to just go back to that line. It says, it is a reminder of the effectiveness of fervent prayer. And of course, I would have been looking at the biblical meaning. So effective, having the power to cause or produce. Effective, fervent prayer. Having the power to activate. So effective prayer, having the power to cause or produce something to happen, whatever you are asking God for, having the power to activate. And when I got to activate too, I stopped, because I'm like, prayers that activate blessings. That's the name of the book. So even I stopped there and I said, oh, to activate. That's what we do. That's what effective, and it says fervent, which means earnest, excited. When you pray in earnesty. And you are earnest and excited when you pray, knowing that you're going to get what you pray for. Knowing that God will answer your prayer. And Jabez, according to the book, that is the kind of prayer that he prayed. Effective, fervent prayer. And that is one of the things that would have stood out just there in the second paragraph. We're still on chapter 1, mind you, but effective, fervent prayer. So you have the power there to activate, as the book says, prayers that activate blessings by effective, fervent prayer. So excitement, earnest, you pray, you be intentional, knowing that what you pray for, you will receive it. So I just kind of stopped there, and I tied in there, and the name of the book, Activate, Prayers that Activate. That's what it is. That's what it means. Alina.
Yeah. I mean, I was just taking notes while you were talking, and writing to remind myself. Because of course I remember an episode or two ago we I don't remember why it came up, if it was in the book, but we were talking about visualizing things. And if you can remember that episode. And so
It
as
was
you
a
were talking, I'm visualizing effectiveness of fervent prayer in my life, what that looks
yeah.
like, what it feels like, what it sounds like. So that was me writing and visualizing, because I know we spoke about the importance of visualizing in one of our earlier episodes. And just really thinking about, as you were talking, effectiveness being the power to cause or produce, and just really internalizing that, reminding myself of the depth of power that is important for me to recognize that I have to produce through prayer. And that is, I think that's just an awareness in itself. I have the power to cause or produce through prayer. And I think when that becomes an awareness, it changes the way we look at prayer. So even as you were talking, I'm thinking about my own prayer life, my assumptions about prayer, how I treat with prayer, because then you're talking about the idea of fervent, excited. You were talking, I use the word passionate because that was the word that came to mind for me. And something else you said, and I wrote the word confident, because based on what you're explaining, then the word fervent suggests confidence, because we know. And
Yes.
so if I know that I have the power to cause or produce through prayer, and I am fervent with it, it activates
Yes, that's right.
blessings, you know. And even as we continue along, they're telling us that the Bible says that Jabez was an honorable man, more honorable than others. And I highlighted being honorable and having a pure heart before God always play a part in how God answers our prayers, because it's not about being perfect, but it's about being holy. And I highlighted that just as a reminder, um, that as people, it's important to like maintain a path about who we are, how we conduct ourselves, because according to what the book is reminding us, that's important to God. How we deal with life, how we deal with people, how we deal with situations, because it's not about perfection, but it's about holiness. It's about having a pure heart before God. And even as it goes along a bit further, the book is reminding us that we can ask God to bless us, and He will grant us what we ask for. And I was chatting with someone about the book who is also reading along with the book, and the person was mentioning that one of the ways the book is helping her is that it's encouraging her to ask, because she doesn't ask, because in her head she's thinking, why should I ask?
Yes.
Look at what I did. I was like, oh my gosh, you were talking about that in the episode the other day. And she was telling me how she's just challenged in that asking, because she thinks about all the ways she fails God. This is what she's telling me. And so it really is an experience to read the book and listen to the book club conversations, because it's causing her to recognize, or maybe I shouldn't think about it like that. Um, I was saying, yeah, because the book is reminding us that if we have to go by good works, even when we think it's good, it's not good before the Lord, right? Because it's not ourselves that cause it to be good, but God's grace that empowers us to be positioned where He could receive us. So yeah, that was just something that really stood out to me. Anything else on that page, Pam, that was of interest to you?
So the same part you mentioned that you highlighted, what I highlighted also. And then following what you just would have spoken about, God is the source of blessing. And I stopped there, and it's something that I know, but you see it here and it kind of hits you. It kind of hits you and it makes you stop. It makes you think. So all the things in my life, and we sometimes take blessings for granted. Sometimes we take blessings for granted.
Yeah.
We do, because we think that it is something that is insignificant. For a lot of people, to Alina, to them, a blessing is something that is so huge and magnificent and probably out in the public and all of those things. But there are simple things that are blessing. We are alive. We can sit and we can do book club conversations. This in itself is a blessing from God. Being alive is a blessing. The things that we take for granted, being able to have our health, being able to see and to speak and to be able to do the things that we do, that in itself is a blessing. And God is the source of blessing. Yeah? Any thoughts?
Even as you're talking about God being the source of blessing, I'm writing. And I was writing blessing, a daily experience.
Yes.
Because if God is the source of our blessing, and we can always ask God to bless us, and He'll grant us what we ask for. It suggests that blessings doesn't have to be an event.
Yes.
It could just be that's your daily normal.
Yes,
That's like
right.
your daily normal, and it's just an interesting mind shift when you really take a minute to remind yourself of these things. Because I'm sure for a lot of people watching it too, it's like, oh, this is not any new information. But sometimes it makes a difference when you really stop and think about the information collectively and pull it together. Then all of a sudden you question yourself on how you respond. Am I asking God to bless me because it's an event and it's a specific thing? Or is it that I'm walking in that every day in all areas of life, but a big, small, or in between? Because even as you're talking about source, my mind went to a conversation I was having with a person yesterday, and he was sharing with me how how it was a challenge when he made the decision to leave his job and go into business on his own, and just the security of having the job, but knowing that what it was paying was not going to do what he wanted it to do, knowing that he has the skill to do much more on his own because he's a technician, a licensed technician, but being afraid, what if it doesn't work? And even as you were talking about God being the source, in the conversation, I was saying to him, I really believe, and I mean, I'm sure I've said it to you as well, where there is purpose, there's provision. And where God has given gifts, um, there will be provision. That because you see, it's in you. It's not something you're trying to do. If God gave you a gift, whether that gift be an instinct, a skill, or understanding, an ability, or whatever, it comes naturally to you. If God has given you a gift, or what I like to call a capacity, and you choose to live in that capacity, honoring God and doing all the other things that you have to do, you will excel. There is no question about it because it's in you. And the reason why we could have and we were talking, and I was saying that he was asking me if I felt like that, and I was telling him I actually never felt like that. And the reason I never felt like that is because I never had confidence in myself. No, I'm not trying to say I suffer from low self-esteem. I'm just saying I never was in a position where I was depending on me to make it work. I have always, and that's not a good thing in a sense that there's nothing good about that experience. To be in a position where you're not depending on you, in my world, suggests that it is so intense, it is beyond your capacities. You have to depend on God. You don't have a choice. And so I've never been in a position where I was really depending on me. I've always been in a position where my notion was, if God does not make this work, it will not work. And so for
Yeah.
many years, I could count for as far back as 2009,
Mm-hmm.
where I would have said, God, if you don't make this work, it's not going to work. So you got to make this work. And that was just the end of the conversation. And
Yeah.
so then to
Yeah.
now, there are many areas in my life that I don't try. God, if
Yeah.
you don't make this work, it's not going to work. So you got to make it work. Hands off.
Yes.
And so I am not my source in that context. That in
Mm-hmm.
that context, I've always depended on God to be my source. I use my capacity. I put it out there and it doesn't have a choice to work because I'm being who I was created to be. And when I do that, I thrive. And we would have talked about thriving at the beginning of the book. When I do that, I'm using my capacity. And so when I use my capacity and I trust, then because God is my source, it will work out. It mightn't always work out the way I think it should work out to how I originally planned it, but it doesn't change the fact that it worked out. And so, yeah, that God is your source thing, I think is really important. And even as we move along on the next page, as that section that talks about where Jacob said, I will not let go until you bless me. And I highlighted many of us pray once, and I think this they use this story with Jacob as an illustration of that effective, fervent prayer. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just highlighting many of us pray once and immediately get angry with God when He does not give us what we prayed for.
Yeah.
Not Jacob. He held on to what he knew God had for him at the end of his labor. And it says, he had his eyes set on his blessing and wouldn't let go until he had it. And I wrote on the side two words: persistence and patience.
Yes. Oh.
Because sometimes we lack those two when it comes to prayer, when it comes to life in general. I think sometimes we just lack those two: persistence and patience. Because when we look at the illustration that the book gives us about Jacob, for him to hold on and not want to let go until God answered him, it took persistence for holding on, but it
Yes.
also took patience for holding on.
Yes.
And
That's
so that stood out to me because, of course, I could think of so many different areas where I can ask myself, to what extent am I persistent? And not just with prayer, just in life.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes, we want something, and the first time we tried, it didn't quite work. And then we say, well, if it didn't work, it wasn't for me. It
Yes.
makes you pull back and ask yourself, is that true? Is it that it wasn't for you, or is it that you weren't persistent and patient in the process? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm just saying, let me phrase that. The answer to that question will be different for every different person. What I'm saying is that it varies,
Yes.
and varies from person to person. But definitely, what the book is showing us is that persistence and patience are key to when we want to achieve something, whether it's achieving something in the physical because we're working on something, working on a project or whatever, or whether it's persistence and patience in prayer because we are engaging that power to produce.
Mm-hmm.
So we're utilizing the power to produce. So then we have to be persistent in doing that in order to activate the blessings associated with it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Persistence. Persistence, indeed, being persistent. And so, I'm listening to you, Alina, and I'm smiling because I think we highlighted similar portions or the same portions of the book. I have it highlighted. I will not let you go unless you bless me. And as you talked about persistence there, we do sometimes want to give up. We do sometimes want to give up. But then when we know, just as we spoke about, God is our source, when we know where our and who our source is, then it comes naturally. We will not let go until He blesses us. Once we know who our source is,
Yeah.
we will
Because
not let
even as we read further,
mm,
it says not only did Jacob come face to face with God, because he asked, he was also blessed with a new name, a new purpose, a new future, a new destiny. My
Wow.
mind cannot start to imagine the depths of what that is saying. I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
When you come face to face with God and you combine that with what you ask, God is able to position you to change your name. And I know we could think about changing name as in Pamela,
Yes.
Alina name, but name could go so much deeper. They change with call you.
Yes.
Are they going to call you a thief? Or now are they going to call you millionaire? Are they going to
Yes.
call you borrower? Or are they going to call you lender? What's your name? Are you righteous man, virtuous woman, or are you the person down the road? What
Yes.
they call you is your name. What do people say of you? Because an encounter of God could change you so much that people change what they say about you.
Yes. That's right.
That coming face to face with God in your own personal life. Because notice, nobody was anywhere here in this thing with Jacob. This is Jacob and God because he
Absolutely.
understood he wanted something. He understood that there was something that he wanted from God, and he didn't bring nobody in. It didn't have no partner in the thing. It didn't have no crew. It didn't have no group. It didn't have nobody outside standing in the
Yes.
gap. This was just he
That's
and
right.
God. And I think it's representative of, well, at least in my mind, I'm thinking right now, it's representative of those times. And sometimes it's really just you and the Lord.
Yeah, that's it.
I always talk about when Tuesday evening come.
Yeah.
And I make it as a joke. I think you would know. I say, sometimes we go to church. For those of us who go to church, we go to church, and it's all nice in church service. And what happens when Tuesday evening come and church service done, and brother so and so and sister so and so in their house, in their life, and you now have to stand in you and yours
Yeah.
and handle you and yours. And there isn't anybody for whatever reason, because it's not everything in life we have people around. Sometimes you just have to stand in it, and when we're standing in it in those moments, the quality of our relationship with God is what makes the difference. And in this, you have that whole face to face with God. That God changed his name, he changed his purpose, he changed future, he changed everything. His life was changed,
That's
not
right.
just as a song. It sounds cute as a song, but I'm trying to imagine what it is to just your life is changed because you were persistent and patient, because you
Yes.
held on and you didn't give up, because you were confident enough to ask God, because we know that we serve a good God. And of course, I'm pulling from memory things that we're reading and we're discussing in earlier book club conversations. Because you ask God and you recognize that because He's a good God and He gives His children good gifts, that we could go to Him and ask. Because you recognize that God's grace is what allows us to be able to act. So we don't have to feel bad that we made a mistake or we did wrong. But because of his grace and his favor, we could boldly ask. And then when we do that and we get in his face, that he could change our lives.
Yes. Yes.
That
And
is
yeah,
amazing.
that is, yeah, absolutely amazing. I mean, that's how good God is. And right there, Alina, as you spoke about, his whole identity was changed. And even when for those of us who may be familiar with scriptures, even when we read the Gospels as well, and it talks about the life of Jesus, and I'm just, this is what came to mind as you were talking about it. And everywhere that Jesus went, and persons who came to him, those that were healed and delivered and all of these things, he asked them, he said, do you want to be made whole? And when you think about whole, you think about emotionally, you think about spiritually, physically, every part of you, every part of you and who you are. And he would ask, he said, do you want to be made whole? And what he did, he made them whole. He said, be made whole. And that's what he did with Jacob. And that's what he did with me. And that's what he wants to do with all of us. So it
Yes.
is.
So even as we take a wind down on this episode, Pam, what's your declaration for today?
I declare that you are walking in blessing and that you are walking in the favor of God. I declare that in your life, that you are walking in blessing and that you are walking in the favor of God. That's my
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that as I am intentional about being effective and fervent in prayer, it will bring me face to face with God and change my name, my purpose, my future, and my destiny. As I become effective and fervent in my prayer, it will cause me to come face to face with God that will have him change my name, my purpose, my future, and destiny. So, book club conversation, people. we agreeing that it is a day of blessing. We're going to walk in blessing because God is our source. And we thank you for joining us today for yet another stream of book club conversations. We trust that it is as refreshing to you as it is to us. Pam, any closing words?
No, I'm just basking here and enjoying where we're heading with book club conversations. And, I invite each and every one of you to join us every Wednesday and Friday as we have these conversations, empowering and, just as the book said, being made whole. That's what
Yeah,
I'm going to do for the entirety of this, being made whole.
definitely. So be sure to share, make the conversation visible to those who you think would be encouraged by what we're discussing. Be sure to comment. We love hearing from you guys. How has the conversation been impacting you? How has reading the book been impacting you? What reading strategies have you been employing as you read? And of course, be sure to go over to the Gibbor Christian Network, EL space Gibbor Christian Network. Their page, you would get the declarations that are posted and so much other great content as it pertains to really building yourself up in your walk with God. So be sure to visit their page as they post and continue to encourage you across there. It was great. Thanks for joining us for yet another episode of Book Club Conversations.